Good morning and welcome to Decidr AI's latest investor webinar, where we've got the Executive Chairman, David Brudenell, on the line. Just before I hand it over to David to go through the presentation that's just been released to the ASX, I'll just remind you that you can submit questions through the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, and we'll get to those post the end of the presentation. But with that, David, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thanks, Simon, and good morning, everyone who's attending today virtually. It's good to be connected to all of you this morning. I'm going to spend a little bit of time going through a broad operational update on the progress that we've made at Decidr, as well as talk a little bit more about Sugarwork, as well as our transformation, our continued transformation, I should say, into the world's leading agentic transformation group. I'm also going to talk a little bit about the intersection between a lot of the foundational model work that's been underway and been in the news most recently, and how Decidr is uniquely positioned with proprietary technology to really take advantage of the commoditization that we believe that's going to happen with these foundation models. And we're going to talk a little bit about why we think that the saying that everyone's going to be managing agents is directionally incorrect, and how orchestration actually is the key topic to that the markets will be moving into, and how DAI as a group perspective is very well placed into this new and highly emerging market of labor as well as transformation activities. I want to first start just on the group structure. With the acquisition of Sugarwork, we're able to incorporate a new U.S. entity. And as I mentioned in prior updates to the market, we're really focusing on becoming the U.S. market and really focusing in on our efforts and our energy into being largely a U.S. originated opportunity from a sales perspective. Essentially, most of the AI on this world is developed out of China and developed out of the United States. So we want to position ourselves in the markets where the origination is happening. And I spent a lot of time over in the United States, and really the appetite of companies, both big and small, is much higher than in countries like Australia. But most importantly as well, you can see here in a call out that we're in the process of incorporating a Singaporean entity into our group. We've been investing into Singapore and APAC more generally for about 7 months now. And you would have noticed in prior releases around the successes in terms of new partners that are coming on board, like DXC and other partners in that sector to drive distribution and reselling of not only the Decidr platform, but now by extension the Sugarwork Tacit Knowledge platform, which we're really excited by. But very importantly, from a shareholder perspective, we continue to kind of expand our geographic footprint into markets that are fast moving, and as well, very importantly, for both the Sugarwork technology and the Decidr operating system for both large and small businesses. These are incredibly scalable technologies and don't require any rework between geographies and/or company sizes. Probably with the only exception, which would be languages, but we're going to be focused on English-speaking languages for the foreseeable future. Kind of looking at our traction, as I've talked about to the market before, really in a fast-growing business, especially a technology business, we're really focused on the exit rate of the last month in each quarter, and focusing on really transforming the business quarter by quarter as the technology moves very quickly as we release, as well as I'm sure all of you can very deeply appreciate how much new technology advancements is happening and the speed by which it's happening around the world. Now, it's been a year since we started commercializing at our Discovery Day back in November 2024, and we're pretty proud as a team to look at our exit rates. In particular, in December, we were able to achieve a 4 million Australian dollar exit rate, and that really puts us in the top 5%, actually a little bit smaller than that, top 3% of all SaaS trajectories for companies. Now, we don't particularly put ourselves in the SaaS category, but as a comparable in this AI space, which is new and emerging, we're pretty proud of the traction that we're able that we've been able to generate over the past year, and we look forward to continuing that acceleration into future quarters. And most importantly, from a traction perspective, I think it's important to call out that in our December quarter exit rate, there's a couple of things in the operational update that were worth noting that weren't included in that exit rate. Namely, our partnership with eBev. We were able to excitedly announce that we had well over 100 customers from the eBev pool of customers commit to start launching our agentic procurement app. As well as we had, as you would expect over the holiday period in Australia, some customer contracts from a beta program that naturally just kind of flowed over into the new year because of holidays and because of scheduling and things like that. And so we've started the new year in a really strong position from a revenue standpoint. And again, the strategy that we've had through our embedded partnerships, our Beta OS program, and now adding Sugarwork to our revenue track in our business. 2026 is really, we're focused on, this is our breakout year at Decidr at the group level. And also that the compounding activities that we've been investing in, we expect to start really seeing those start to release through 2026. So we're really excited as a team over here and now in multiple countries. And that's a little bit offset by the share price. I'm disappointed in the share price on behalf of our shareholders, but we continue to, as a team, to execute on our strategy. And as the market continues to move, we're kind of continually proven correct in terms of directionally the way that we're moving. And in particular, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about the new orchestration layer in the AI infrastructure stack, which we believe that we are extremely well positioned in to take advantage of as the market moves towards this in 2026. Just talking a little bit and breaking down our revenue pathways and some of the progress around it. At Decidr, at the group level, we have four principal revenue pathways. The first one is our beta program. And so I've talked about that extensively, both in releases and on webinars. This is a beta program by which it's an invite-only program where we're focused on B2B businesses that have high eligibility within a particular market. And so we have beta customers who are dropship merchandisers, who are accounting platforms, corporate advisors, and a raft of different industries that we're using to help launch our platform. This is a relatively kind of middle white glove service that we're working on with those particular customers. And this is really a program that we're going to be extending out probably till the first half of this year because it's been exceptionally well received, but not only from our beta customers, but also for us in understanding some potential new workflows, apps, really, putting our technology out in the wild and really getting critical customer feedback on the back of that. That feedback has been overwhelmingly positive from our beta customers in our first cohort, which we started work on in the middle of November, I would say, and had our first releases in the December period. The customer feedback has been excellent. We're rapidly moving into production from our customer side. And so we'll start to see the Decidr operating system powering many of these beta customers, their front-end systems and their back-office systems through this quarter, which we're really excited to move to. That customer and that beta program continues. The pipeline continues to be very strong. We continue to work through those customers. And that particular customer is a full year commitment from the customer to the beta program. It's a six-figure commitment, and that allows them to really get the full hold of the technology and operating system of the Decidr platform, as well as cap what we call their workflow fees for 2 years. So we're really excited about that, and we'll continue to kind of move through our second cohort, which starts in a few weeks. And then moving forward to continually accelerating the cohort releases to ideally monthly up until the end of this first half. Following that, we're focused on launching what we would call our first version or our V1 of our operating system. And that moves and graduates out of the beta program and then moves into effectively a self-service platform where businesses, and we may still have eligibility criteria, will be focused, as an example, predominantly on B2B businesses in our V1. But essentially, we'll have been able to open to a broader set of businesses for self-service in the second half of the year. We move to our next revenue line, which is embedded partners. Those are partners like Career One, like Elmo, Go One, now Book It, and those other partners. We have well over 14 partners now, of which we're in active flight in building the agentic apps by which they're distributing to their customer bases. That continues to compound positively from a revenue standpoint. You would have seen that a very large driver of our growth from last year was our initial partnerships, which continue to grow, and we continue to expand those bases, customer bases and revenue bases within our partners. eBev is a very good example of a fast build from September, where we initially put out our pilot program, to having 100 signups in the December period, ready to go in the first quarter of the calendar year of 2026. In addition to that, we have other partners in flight. I did mention in our operational update that Elmo and Go1 they slipped into this following quarter. I can call out that Elmo had some executive changes in their ranks, which slowed down the release program. And our Go1 product is distributed through Career1, one of our major partners, which we've been having a lot of success in. And in the actual selection of criteria of partnership activities that we are working on, we decided to focus in on some other activities at the later half of last year and push forward the Go1 integration into Career1 and into Banjo, as some of you will be familiar with, into this quarter and potentially into the next quarter. So just wanted to call that out, that we're working through, and our development timelines are still very scalable from a Decidr standpoint, but naturally we're moving sometimes into enterprise cycles with our external partners, of which they're operating their businesses as well. We expect that those delays from partners will continue to kind of decrease as more and more partners in our pipeline come in and are released. Something to note as well in terms of the ability for us to build and deploy partnerships from a technical perspective. In past webinars, I've mentioned that we're able to do that roughly 3 to 5 partners per quarter. That continues to be maintained in 2026. Our partnership team is truly exceptional, both the technical and product team, and they continue to work in a really great way with partners to move and accelerate that release plan through 2026. Also to note for the commercial resellers, so this is both an existing but also a newly focused area of business, revenue business for the group. Now, importantly, from a commercial reseller, this is the more classic kind of reselling arrangement that many of you will be familiar with. And this is with system integrators, MSPs, as well as hyperscalers like AWS as an example. So this is the category internally that we put our AWS partnership. And I can say that this is a really exciting and emerging category. If you check the ASX this morning, we were able to announce a partnership with a PE advisory firm and PE company itself called Beckway out of the United States, who have 130 employees, which are not only deployed within their portfolio companies, but provide advisory services to other PE portfolio firms in America. There's well over 2,500 PE firms in America, with ownership of well over 10,000 companies in the United States. So we're really excited to have companies like Beckway starting to resell the SugarWork product and tacit knowledge capture, which we've learned from via SugarWork that the PE sector is a very high opportunity sector for capturing tacit knowledge to unearth new synergies within, once that PMI starts at post-acquisition of a PE firm. So we would classify that as an emerging category for us. And in addition to that, we have proposals out in all countries that include as well this new emerging Singaporean entity, as well as we have reseller contracts both on foot and in proposal in all countries as well. So we're very excited about that. SugarWork and tacit knowledge capture, and which I'll spend a little bit of time talking about in a moment, we believe is going to be one of the most critical areas for enterprise to be able to, as they start to look at how they transform their businesses using AI. And it's surprising how many businesses actually don't understand the true workflows that have humans involved into them of their business. So we're really excited to start training up, creating certification programs within this reselling channel. Also to note, our AWS partnership continues to go on pace. I know that the market's really excited to start to see the results of this. I can confirm that we continue to be on the right track for the fast track program, on the right schedule of activities as well. It's a very regimented activity and schedule that AWS has put together, and it has yielded good results for graduates of the fast track program. And I can confirm that we have a agreed launch date. So that's where Decidr and the case studies are presented. So people like me and Paul and other executives at Decidr will be presenting the Decidr solution to internal AWS sales teams across their different ISPs, mid-market, and enterprise segments to then start training them up to be able to go in market into Q2 of this calendar year and start to run distribution of the Decidr platform to the AWS base initially in Australia and then moving towards the United States in early 2027. And then lastly, from a revenue stream, that's SugarWork, which is making tacit knowledge explicit. And for those of you with this is the first time you're hearing the term tacit knowledge, another way to describe tacit knowledge is the hidden knowledge or the intuition in your job. All of us would have experienced when a very big new ERP system gets put into your organization. And often when that's put in place, it doesn't really work that well, and you have to find kind of hacks to be able to get around it. It's those hacks, which is what SugarWork captures through interviews, AI-assisted interviews within big enterprises to start to be able to essentially map out the true workflows in an organization. And that's going to become incredibly important as AI starts to be permeate through organizations because largely AI driven by these foundation models, the probabilistic AI has been unsuccessful. 95% of these AI pilots over the past 18 months have failed because we believe largely is that it's not accounting for the true way that work is actually flows through an organization, and that's solved by SugarWork. And in addition to that, you need a deterministic structure or a rigid schema, as our opinionated schema, as we describe here at Decidr, being the very important thing to allow AI to work within deterministic guardrails so that you have chain of thought, so that it does the same thing every single time. So largely, these are our four revenue channels within the Decidr group. They are in different stages of progress, but we expect all to be compounding through 2026, which we can expect to have this again to focus in on. This is going to be our breakout year. In particular, the market forces that we're seeing, Paul and I are seeing, and the executives are seeing at DAI, is that we are about to move into a really critical phase of adoption. Essentially workflow adoption, as well as the critical new layer in the AI infrastructure stack, which is orchestration. I've had questions also about how does SugarWork interface with Decidr, and I had questions around, Decidr has predominantly been an SME-led strategy, so why are you focusing on enterprise? Well, there's a couple really particular reasons why we focus in on the enterprise track. The number one reason is that the underlying technology for SugarWork and for Decidr is uniform. As I said earlier, it doesn't matter if the business is big or small or in Singapore or America. Fundamentally, our platforms are identical. And so realistically, the SugarWork opportunity opens up a new enterprise revenue pathway for us. We believe, and we're seeing today in our proposals, that there's an opportunity to price up with SugarWork as compared to its prior pricing, because what we're discovering is that the value of unearthing and understanding these workflows within these enterprise organizations are worth millions, if not tens of millions of dollars in process and flows. As enterprises through 2026 are starting to then look at their engineering footprints, their product footprints, their transformation, their resizing of their organizations, they need critical understanding about how to interface those with this new AI technology. And SugarWork provides that exact solution for them. And they don't need to pay Big Four consulting prices, and they get it in 1/3 of the time that they would get out of one of the Big Four consulting companies. So SugarWork provides a really meaningful and fast way to understand how your organization works. Now, in addition to that, SugarWork, and where we started at through our partnership last year with SugarWork, was we saw kind of really exciting reciprocal cross-selling opportunities. So I've called out here a very high level kind of sales pipeline flow of how the SugarWork and Decidr pathways kind of merge together. And if I was talking about the SugarWork enterprise pathway, we are originating customers at the enterprise level, and we have dozens and dozens of leads coming into the Decidr business, which we don't have classically serviced, which are enterprise leads. And now we're able to pass those on to the SugarWork team. But that enterprise origination typically then moves to a SugarWork workflow pilot. So typically within an enterprise, how SugarWork starts is there's a particular workflow or a problem area that the business is looking to understand. That's usually 90 days. The pricing starts at 50,000 US for that pilot. And SugarWork consistently kind of delivers either on time or earlier to be able to unearth the true outputs. Now, SugarWork then moves to a subscription payment. And there's a number of reasons why an organization will want to continue to have the SugarWork platform on and live. The number one reason is they can continually access the tacit knowledge and this data that they've just been able to extract from their organization. Number two is you have what we call a tacit knowledge repo. And so that repo can be good for, employees of those enterprise organizations to query it using natural language. So, via one of the Glean services as an example, or just natural language chat. And in addition to that, this tacit knowledge is some of the most valuable contextual knowledge for enterprises who are also looking at their own private foundation models to put into their business. So this is really valuable training data, continuous training data that's going into their organization. And the lastly is businesses change all the time, and tacit knowledge capture is an always-on activity that allows boards, executives, directors, VPs, so on and so forth, truly be able to find a look through their organization to look through not only optimization from a cost perspective, but look for new revenue opportunities. Now, the output of that 90-day process through SugarWork is simply put, ends up to be a process document. And I was doing a webinar just earlier this week, and one of the statements that I put out there and what we believe at Decidr is that AI does not replace jobs. AI replaces tasks in workflows. And the output of SugarWork is a workflow with tasks in there. And that is the great place for Decidr to start, because now for the first time, an enterprise organization can actually see which steps in the workflow could be optimal for agentification. And it's those workflows, that's where Decidr starts. And we start the Decidr cross-sell. So although the platform is identical between a small business and an enterprise from a Decidr perspective, enterprises are very big organizations, and as the saying goes, like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So how do we provide at Decidr our operating system? We do that one task at a time. And so as we believe enterprises will continue to use SugarWork to uncover that tacit knowledge and get exports and extracts of workflows, those provide new task opportunities for Decidr to agentify using our platform. And we're on the road to kind of continually cross-selling and upselling and expanding both the SugarWork and the Decidr platform. If we move to the Decidr SME pathway, how SugarWork can benefit that. Well, the Decidr pathway is our graph preboarding, of which we're aggressively onboarding businesses into the platform. I just took a look at one of our team looking at both Singapore, the Middle East, and Australia businesses of the tens of thousands of businesses that are being put into the graph. And at that point, those graph businesses will be found via large language model optimization, SEO, SEM, or agentic proposal distribution from those agentic businesses themselves, who have goals and who are actively looking for new prospects to send proposals to their customers. At this point, which is largely self-service in the second half of the year, what we'll see is what we would call the SugarWork apps that live in the Decidr platform. So SugarWork helps businesses essentially capture tacit knowledge, but in the Decidr self-service journey, the businesses will be presented with apps, standardized apps that exist in the Decidr platform. By having a SugarWork app, they'll be able to configure those standard apps in the Decidr platform to their own currently operating business. So they may be able to add an extra step. They may be able to reorder those steps, and they'll be able to do that in a meaningful way through natural language and conversations with the SugarWorks app. And we believe that that's going to be really successful for increasing conversion to paid users in the Decidr operating system. So hopefully you can see here that not only do SugarWork and Decidr really complement each other as a combined pair, but each individual one supports the other in the go-to-market activities for the business. Now, the thing I want to focus in on now is really the areas that we've been traditionally focused on at Decidr, and essentially what we're seeing today in the markets is really starting to shake out of really what's happening in the world from a SaaS marketplace. From the very beginning, Paul and I have always said that we really don't compete in the SaaS software market. But it's a big market. It's 300 billion. But principally, the market that Decider operates in is the labor market. Again, AI does not replace jobs, it replaces tasks in workflow. And effectively, the Decider operating system is a task agentification platform. And so Decider operates in a market that is in the trillions of dollars of labor. So this is the US labor market. And as you can see here, that when you start to think about labor as our target market and how we're going to help reorganize the tasks of the world and reorganize that labor and interplay it with agentic capabilities from the Decider platform, you can see that just in the US alone, nurses' wages are larger, are 2 times the size of the entire software, global software SaaS marketplace. And so these are enormous markets that we're starting to enter into from a Decider standpoint. And we're positioning ourselves in this very new wave of AI investment on the infrastructure side, what we're terming orchestration. And really, when you start to break down the target markets, the TAMs that Decider is focused on, you can see our 4 revenue lines here of Beta OS, embedded partners, commercial resellers, and Sugarwork. You can see that as we start to really, it's a TAM, but maybe a bit more of a SAM, we have identified 530,000 firms of revenue between 10 million and 1 billion in the major Western countries. And that represents $6 trillion in labor. When we look at our partnership model, our embedded partnership model, when you take away Salesforce and Workday and the top firms, there are 75,000 long tail SaaS companies out there in regional as well as kind of secondary industries. That's the plumbers, that's the beverage procurement, that's the hairdressers in Western markets. And that's $100 billion in annualized revenues for those companies, which we can help galvanize for that partnership group. And then as I did a presentation earlier this week on tacit knowledge and the value of tacit knowledge, we've done some calculations internally here at Decider and Sugarwork, and we've identified that the value of schema IP or the institutional knowledge, the know-how knowledge of the top 2,000 global enterprises represents about 1.3 trillion in IP value each year. So we are really positioning ourselves in very large markets, and we're not playing in the SaaS software place. We're not playing in that really messy, muddled place, which is really being disrupted quite significantly. We're strategically positioning ourselves in a new area. And so all of you would have seen where this capital is going over the past kind of 2 years and the hundreds of billions of dollars that have been pushed into it. And the way we see it, Jensen Huang's, he's a 5-layer model. We see a little bit more just based on our experience, going from the bottom of rare earths, energies, chips, data centers and compute, data labeling and training. So that's businesses like Appen and Scale AI. And then you have foundation models and AI applications that sit on top of it. But we believe that there is a new layer that's coming around because intelligence and the production of intelligence, and that's the way we think about these foundation models. They're actually manufacturing intelligence, just like nuclear power plants generate electricity. But AI intelligence is really good at answering questions. It doesn't necessarily answer the questions correctly all the time, but intelligence doesn't necessarily mean coordination. And that's why every time I see that Claude Code has a new release for coding, or Gemini can do images, or OpenAI can do math, it doesn't overly concern me because fundamentally these are still probability machines and they still have to be put into deterministic businesses. And that's where the friction starts to be created because enterprises and sovereign economies, they need to make decisions, transactions, which need compliance, auditability, and trust. And that doesn't exist in these foundation models, which are largely just the production of raw intelligence. And so we believe at Decider that we're positioned in this critical new market or layer called the orchestration layer. And you can see here for the reasons why we believe that there's such a strong proprietary technology that we built in this area, of which we're a first mover in this orchestration space, especially in the kind of SME and kind of mid-enterprise. Our closest kind of thematic competitor would be Palantir in the States, and that would be extreme enterprise. But fundamentally, AI is a horizontal technology. The more context that you put in the prompt window of one of these foundation models, the better results you get. And so think about the context of an organization, and that's what Decider and Sugarwork capture through our processes. And we believe that these standalone AI point solutions, as well as the platforms, the SaaS platforms out there, will struggle because Fundamentally, they're in areas which are going to be quickly commoditized. CRM systems, meaning as a good example of a sector that will be commoditized. Accounting SaaS, we believe that will be able to be actually quite stable because of the government integration and the law and legislations that kind of sit behind that. Also, it's really important that we believe that these foundation models will kind of rapidly move towards commoditization. It really won't matter if it's Claude or if it's OpenAI or GPT-5 or if it's Gemini that you're choosing. Largely, it'll just be an economic decision, and the difference between models will be marginal if at all. And essentially, there's that saying of everyone's going to be a manager of AI agents. We see that as being highly impractical. As a human, our span of control within an organization is 5 to 7 people at best. And this concept of individual humans managing hundreds or thousands of agents, we see as supremely impractical and beyond the bounds of human actually ability. And so the only other consequence with agents upon agents is you have to have the watchman watching the watchman. And that just creates further compounding issues around auditability, compliance, and trust. And so the future is about governance, is about bounded areas of schema, as we call it, Decidr, on a horizontal platform. And this kind of orchestration layer we see as a critical unlock to these foundation models, which are largely moving towards commoditization, as I mentioned before, that allows businesses to actually execute, and they can execute tasks. And this is in many cases the boring stuff within an organization, but that is the real sustainable activities within agentic activities within an organization, which become permeable and durable and highly pervasive across sectors. As a strategic standpoint, and just kind of finishing up here is, as we continue to evolve, we started with our AI transformation strategy in the group, 14 months ago. And as we've continued to invest this technology, work with customers, and now acquiring the Sugarwork business, we believe that Decidr AI Industries, or DAI, can be the world's leading agentic transformation group. And as opposed to the consultancies and the big four out there, that we provide a really tools up or technology up approach. Not only can we diagnose those areas that are of issue or opportunity for a business to conduct transformation activities, but we can follow through and be able to provide the orchestration platform to actually have those tasks agentified and have them agentified safely and durably for the business. So we see 5 pillars in our agentic transformation strategy: organizational self-knowledge, human agentic footprint, data and schema normalization, the agentic orchestration platform, which is Decidr, and then distribution and labor graphs. And we continue to move forward at what we believe is at a strong pace to be able to have the right companies, partners in our portfolio to be able to provide these 5 pillars of agentic transformation as a standalone offering to businesses big and small. The big end of town is led by Sugarwork, which is the tip of the spear. But for SMEs, these are essentially agentic apps, as I mentioned before, that are available to SMEs via the Decidr operating system platform. So we really believe that we're an excellent standpoint, and we're positioning ourselves in 2 of the largest growing industries and sectors of the next 10 years. You have the AI transformation space, which over the next 10 years will be tens of billions of dollars. And then you have the even larger AI orchestration space, which over the next 10 years, from a labor perspective, will start to move tens of trillions of dollars of labor, which will be remade and reimagined as we move into the next decade. So with that, I'll say thank you, and maybe I'll pause there, and we can open for questions.
Mr. DCB, just a reminder, the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen is how do you ask a question. First question: have the deferred or delayed payments from the clients from the prior update been received and the issues worked out since the last update?
So with there's kind of 2 parts to that answer. The first part is the EBEV program. So the EBEV program is underway. So those customers are being deployed. As they're being deployed, the invoices start to go out. So the answer to that is yes. For Elmo and Go One, Elmo is still unresolved at the moment. We're working through that, but we're optimistic that we can get that in flight and into field this quarter. And for Go One, as I mentioned earlier, that'll most likely be into the next quarter. And the reason why is we continue to have successes with the Career One team when we're prioritizing other activities that we feel that will be better strategically and also near term for both parties.
Update on the eBay partnership or marketplace.
Can you just say that one more time, Simon? Sorry.
Update on the eBay market partnership or marketplace. I think it might be eBev.
eBev.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had some excellent results from our eBev pilot. And just to kind of put some context around what we do with the eBev agentic procurement app is that today, when a pub manager needs to order new liquor or beer, they kind of turn around and look at the back bar and they knock on kegs and they take a guess at what they need for the coming weeks. Typically, it's just like the order from the week before. But that's a process that takes about 3 hours. They then go into the eBev platform, they order, and when you go into the platform, I didn't know this, but for example, you can order the same bottle of Jack Daniels from 4 different suppliers at 4 different margins at 4 different quantities. Now, what we've done on that particular area is we partnered with eBev to create this procurement app, but we've also loaded in a tremendous amount of other data. So that's weather data, that's sport data, that's all the historical data of more than a decade of eBev purchasing for margin optimization. So what took 3 hours a week for a pub manager now takes 10 minutes or less, and it's recommended from this procurement app. And so you have an incredible amount of time savings for the bar manager, but more importantly, they're ordering the right volumes of booze to be able to increase revenue. And out of our pilot, and one of the strongest value propositions is that the app is charged out at $500 a month, and the app is essentially cost neutral because of the margin savings that they're getting by ordering the right quantities from the right suppliers of the platform. And so, yeah, the eBev platform is really exciting. We just had another release this week in terms of features on the platform, and we continue to partner really positively. And I'm not going to use the word aggressively, but really enthusiastically to take this procurement app to the eBev 5,000 pub customer base. So we're really excited about eBev as a critical partner here. And honestly, I didn't think we'd be agentifying the hospitality industry at Decidr, but here we are making beer available to all of those people agentically.
Doing God's work there, David. Just a question on agentic AI is becoming more mainstream and the environment looks to be becoming more competitive. What's Decidr's edge?
Yeah, so it's pretty clear, right? We are an infrastructure layer. We are a deterministic orchestration platform. Our edge is our schema and the way that we have actually designed our operating system to use this amazing AI or foundational model technology. So, what the alternative is today is to use foundation models to create wrappers or individual AI agents. Now, if you kind of think forward, firstly from an enterprise perspective, is like there's a future where a CIO has to have a decision to have dozens and dozens of independent startup companies that provide one single agent, right? Think of the governance problems. Think of the secondary and tertiary effects that go into large enterprise organizations from a sustainability and durability perspective. That really creates a problem for large enterprises. We solve that problem at Decidr by providing the underlying schema and substrate for all the agents to work within the organization. So from an enterprise perspective, we are a very durable bet and very controlled bet. We're able to control and understand and show the chain of thought, how this agentic technology actually works and is seen. Now, from an SME perspective, we provide a single place, like the App Store, to be able to go find a safe place to be able to actually activate apps. And so the difference, and the best analogy I can give from an SME perspective is like when before the iPhone and before the App Store, there was apps everywhere, and there was viruses in apps. You didn't know if the app was going to be there. You didn't know if it worked, if you could trust it. But then the App Store came out from Apple, and Apple had the governance of the App Store within the iPhone that gave people success. And I truly believe that the App Store was the fundamental reason for the iPhone's success, because people knew that when they picked up an iPhone, it worked the same way every single time. And that's what we're about at Decidr. It's providing that deterministic structure and orchestration that is durable and is actually transparent.
Thanks, David. Just a question, can you comment on the progress of the Shopify relationship?
Yeah, so we actually just I just put out a note this morning on LinkedIn and X that we've actually launched our what's called Senna, which is our essentially sales agent, which lives in the Shopify platform that is underpinned by our Decider operating system. We have paid customers for that. We've had paid customers from essentially early December through now. So we're still in the beta program, but it's on the App Store. So you can, if you want to go to my post on LinkedIn or X, or just have a look at the Shopify App Store. You can find it Senna, S-E-N-A, and you can take a look at what it's all about. You know, it's fundamentally built on the Ava platform, which we deployed through Edible Beauty and had such great success on it. And that's been extended as we've kind of built it directly in the Shopify platform. So we'll continue to have that in beta for probably a couple months, a couple more months. But I can confirm we have paying beta customers, which are Shopify stores, using the Senna app.
Just a question, when will your iOS app go live?
I actually don't have a timeline on that, Simon, to that person who asked that question. So I'll just hold there. I think that our iOS app we've kind of deprioritized a little bit in as we start to put more resources in our pre-boarding and our agentic graph creation.
And is Frontier a competitor of your model?
I haven't heard of Frontier before. I'll take a look, but principally we're pretty active in the space in terms of like deterministic orchestration platforms. And so far, like Palantir would be the closest competitor to us in terms of their opinionated ontology. We have our highly opinionated deterministic schema, but inevitably there'll be more competitors coming out. I think like I haven't seen Frontier before, and but what I can talk to is some of the other benefits that we have at a DAI group level in terms of providing businesses that durability that we believe that they'll be looking for. You know, being a public company, having solid capital reserves in our business, and be able to kind of execute through these enterprise partnerships. We believe that as people start to really think through, you know, the multitude of agents and really what they want to use this dazzling technology for, they'll start moving to safe harbors. And we believe that we're really building that safe harbor, orchestration harbor for customers.
Clarify, DCB, that's OpenAI's Frontier.
Oh, they're from. Oh, okay. OpenAI. Sorry.
Yeah.
Whether it be Anthropic or OpenAI or Gemini, all of these platforms will put out what they call orchestration platforms. And there's just a couple things about why I'm not worried about these platforms. So number one is that these hyperscalers and foundational models, they are putting out generalized apps and agents on a singular base. It is economically against what they want, right? They make their money via putting tokens out and getting and essentially ad units. You know, OpenAI and Anthropic will have ads in their platform shortly enough. And so the economics of their business models are against what a business really wants, which is efficient cost and determinism. So number one is like the underlying economics of their platform are against what a business truly wants from an agentic deployment perspective, at least we believe. And the second piece is they're generalized platforms and they're generalized apps. And so that requires businesses to have tuned them themselves. And that's really where you run into kind of the typical problems that, you know, SugarWorks starts to solve with these businesses. And so, you know, the way I think about it is, you know, these businesses are building the equivalent of like Google Play Store, right, with agents and apps. And especially in the early days, those agents and apps were highly, the efficacy was very, very low of those platforms. It takes a couple cycles to be able to kind of get it through. And then that's again what I mentioned before about the span of control and the reality of actually managing these agents. You know, OpenAI's Frontier, Anthropic, Claude Code, all those things, the MCP a kind of infrastructure and routing infrastructure. They are all distributed, like ungoverned platforms. And so that creates risk for businesses. And largely these businesses are focused on the consumer side as well. So, we're really focused on B2B in the Decidr footprint. So we're keeping a close eye. Apologies, I thought it was another company called Frontier, not the OpenAI's Frontier application. But we're keeping a close eye. But largely, we see those as a separate space. And really where the value comes is actually in that orchestration, which these platforms we believe won't deliver.
DCB, we're just pushing on 45 minutes. So just last question before I hand it back to you for closing remarks. Can we expect other near-term partnership updates for transparency to shareholders, just like the one this morning?
Yeah, you can. You can. Actually, we're making some investment, that our last capital raise, we're putting a little bit more money into our corporate team. And so look for more kind of staccato releases into the future. As I mentioned before, we have really healthy pipelines for all four of our revenue lines. And we're really excited now to have some more capacity internally as a business. We've had to make some decisions on investing in product versus investing in corporate and so on and so forth. But now that our business is starting to compound, we're able to, I'm really excited to kind of take more messaging to the market. So watch this space. We'll be much more active through 26 in terms of announcements than we were last year.
I'll hand it back to you for closing remarks. DCB.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Simon. And first of all, for all those people on the webinar who are shareholders, thank you for your continued support and belief in our strategy. We are a big blue sky company, and we believe that Paul and I are investing really in where the market's going to be. And every day, our team is really focused on compounding the investment that we've made over the past few years to really transform this group into the world's leading agentic transformation group. So thank you for your support. Look for more activity. You'll be hearing not only from me from now on, but other executives in the market. And we're really looking forward to 2026. This is truly our breakout year. And so thanks very much.
Thanks, David. Thanks all for attending.